Hello, guys. This is pretty much the saddest reality that I've had to face. Not gonna lie, I've been on this platform reading stories of people getting cheated on by their partners. I never knew I'd one day be here writing mine. Life has really gone full 180. I booked a trip for friend and family, and my wife decided that was her cue to sleep with my best friend. I, a 53-year-old male, am still trying to find a way to process the bullshit I was forced to experience. I don't know if there's a lesson in this, a lesson on trust or something. I don't know if I'd ever get over the pain, but I look forward to what the days ahead would bring. It's been 2 years now. My wife of 20 years, Riel, 46, had spent the year before the incident asking to go on a trip abroad. I had turned it down because we currently have 2 sons in university. We were comfortable, I made sure of it. Having 2 children in university, on the other hand, meant we didn't spend as much as we did earlier. I had constantly turned down the notion that we spend 2 weeks in a foreign land because I thought it was only going to waste the money we had. Anyway, after giving it some thought and guided by the constant pleas and requests from my wife, I decided, why not? I started to plan a trip for the whole family. I thought my sons needed a break from the stress that came with being in the university, and I felt a vacation would be perfect for all of us. I surfed the internet in search of someplace worthwhile, but I couldn't find one that's good and also fits my budget. We couldn't go to someplace in Africa because my sons each had about 3 allergies. I was always someone who wanted to visit Africa though, especially Nigeria. I just decided that the trip to Nigeria would be something I and my wife would do when I retired. Well, after searching for a while, I found the cheapest fun-packed vacation plan for a family. My wife liked to be treated like royalty, so I decided that I'd only go for the ones that were high class. The cheapest ones I found were worth close to double one of my son's annual tuition. I decided it was time to outsource this vacation. That was where my friend, the closest I've had and the one who's been around the longest, came in. He was a millionaire who had helped me out a ton over the years. He had once talked to me about going overseas on holiday for the same duration as I had. I seized an opportunity to squeeze one more freebie out of him. I discussed my plans with him, showing him the choices I had and the money I had budgeted for the trip. He looked at them, smiled, and said, "These aren't vacations, bro. Let me show you what a vacation is." He opened his laptop, and what I saw wowed me. The locations, the way the pictures looked spectacular, and how everything I saw looked like they were expensive enough to clear my mortgage. I asked him if he was sure this wouldn't be one of those what you ordered versus what you got sort of things. He just smiled and told me how he has been going on these trips at least once a year. He said he reacted the way I did when he first made his millions. He then diverted the conversation into something that didn't relate to what we were talking about at hand. John was a bit of an innovative-minded person, although he always used his big brain to run Ponzi schemes and scams. That was how he made his millions. He never got married, at least not yet, as he said he didn't want to settle down to one woman when he could get whatever woman he wanted. He had a son, 12, whom he paid child support for. I sometimes wondered why he lived such a lifestyle, and sometimes I envied his life. I mean, who wouldn't want to have millions in their name? Who wouldn't want to travel on thousands of dollars worth of vacation once a year without having to break every piggy bank they owned? Who wouldn't want to live in a $1.4 million worth mansion? He asked me to wire him the budget I had. I did, and I watched him use the money to book a 1-hour goat yoga session for 6. Yeah, you heard me right. He spent my entire budget for a 2-week holiday on a 1-hour session. This man always found a way to make my hard-earned money look like peanuts. He booked the trip for 6, my wife, my 2 sons, his son, himself, and I. He also booked the plane tickets to and fro, because my budget also included flights. I thanked him afterwards and just left. The day of the trip came, and we all moved. My wife was most excited amongst all of us. She was happy she finally got to go on what she'd been asking for about a year. She was so excited about the trip that she couldn't even sleep that night. I had to find other ways to put her to sleep. When we got to Paris, John took the opportunity to dazzle the mini crowd with his abilities. He knew how to speak French and also knew how to fake an accent. His little antiques excited his son and also my wife for reasons I didn't quite understand. I just shrugged it off to the fact that she was so excited for being on a trip after she had been longing for one. We got to the hotel we booked, and it was marvelous. It had wonderful scenery, and it was literally the biggest hotel in Paris and probably the most expensive. He spent a lot on this vacation. John said he did it because he wanted to show me how happy he was to have a friend like me. He sometimes used to tell me that sometimes, due to how squeaky clean I was as a citizen, people tend to trust doing business with him more. He said something about a few of his clients doing background checks on me one day, which really freaked me out. The hotel had a large house-type suite in the penthouse, had like 4 or 5 rooms, and had bathrooms in all of them. It also had a recreational lounge and a pool at the balcony. It had games, which interested John's son, who got immediately preoccupied by one. It had a pool table and an in-house gym. "I'm really going to get jacked here," I heard my sons say to one another whilst they admired the size of the gym and the quality of the tools. My wife immediately went into one of the rooms and into the bathtub. I joined her in there in a few minutes. I must say, I used to read manhwas that had sex in the bathtub as part of it. Trust me, the bigger and better the tub, the better the intimate acts. The very next day, we went about our different itineraries, although we did sometimes do something together. The itineraries we had together included, or not exclusive to karaoke, play snooker together, the already scheduled goat yoga, and some other things that I don't actually know how to pronounce because they're French. It was around 7 p.m., and John sent his kid to go to sleep whilst the adult continued to have fun. My sons were 21 and 18 respectively, so since we were in Europe, we let them drink and join us when we went into the nearby club. We had fun as a bunch of adults, and I for one was glad I didn't have to do any parenting. The next day, we were all hungover, except for John, which I guess was because he did this sort of thing anyway, so he had built up an immunity. He prepared hangover cures, French style, and I just watched as my wife was laughing at all his jokes, even the ones I thought weren't funny. The next day, we went into the city of Paris. It was something of a sightseeing tour. We went to all of the tourist attractions we could go to that day. When we got back, we were all very exhausted again, except for John. We sat in the living room in the penthouse and recounted our day. We talked about how fun it was and how it was good that we decided to save the visit to the Eiffel Tower for last. Last as in the day before we were scheduled to return to the US. John continued being the comedian, with his funny getting more and more repeated and unfunny. I just wondered one thing though. Why does my wife seem to be laughing at every one of his jokes and asking him to repeat them and all that? I looked across the room to be sure I wasn't the only one not laughing. Alas, it was the other way round. My wife was the only one laughing. When I locked eyes with my sons, it showed that they too wondered what was funny. We all started to retire to our sleeping spaces, starting with John's kid. I can't lie, I keep calling him John's kid because I have completely forgotten the boy's name. My 2 sons followed, then myself. I beckoned my woman to join me to bed, but she insisted she wanted to stay awake a little while longer. At midnight that day, I woke up to ease myself. My wife was sleeping right beside me, but what I found weird was the nightwear she had on. It wasn't from our pile, and it also wasn't the same as the ones in the room we slept in. The nightwear in each room had different colors. I hadn't been in all the rooms, so I didn't know which it was from. The next day, I had woken up earlier than I did on the days prior. I had something in me I had nicknamed the need to know basics. Need to know as in I need to know the answers to my questions. I never liked leaving any situation without a remedy. I got into the other rooms one after the other because I couldn't rest if I didn't know which room the nightwear she had on was from. On getting to the 4th room, I saw one of the cleaners walking out with the night clothes from each of the rooms. It seems he had come in thinking no one was in because in 3 days prior to this day, we were always already out. I counted the piles on his hand to see if he had done all the other rooms which I hadn't entered. He had. I tried to see if I could determine from how the piles were stacked what room he had gotten what set from, but before I could even get to that, the cleaner stuck it all in a bag, as understandably, they might have been too heavy for him to keep carrying. I went back to the sitting room, put on the TV, and sat to enjoy a movie. Maybe that would take the thought away from my head. My wife came in behind the cleaner. One could tell that she had just awoken. She was having one of the nightwear we brought with us this time. She came closer and kissed me, saying, "Good morning, my husband." I laughed and replied, "Good morning, your husband's wife." The cleaner looked at me. He had some sort of pity in his eyes. I couldn't understand why he would look at me pitifully. I started to think maybe because this was a different place with a different culture, that maybe that was how they showed jealousy or envy here. Maybe he wanted what we had. Looking back at that day and recalling the look on that man's face, I am now heavily disappointed at the level of stupidity which I attained that day. I now even wonder how I managed to have two sons who are flipping Einsteins at their fields. The days went on. Each day we go out and have a blast, all expenses covered by John, and every day we come back and I'd sit through another round of enthusiastic show from my wife to my best friend. At some point, it started to seem even insulting. Well, the last day came, Eiffel Tower Day. I and John had helped my sons get in bed with twin European ladies the night before, and that was what we were talking about for the most part of the tour. The 18-year-old was just losing his virginity. He couldn't stop talking about how he was tired of doing just second base stuff with his girlfriend at school. I didn't know he had a girlfriend, otherwise I wouldn't have helped him get with one of the twins. As for the 22-year-old, he just got out of a 4-year relationship. Well, he didn't just get out. It's been a year since they broke up, and I was trying to get him back in the game. My wife seemed a little disturbed. Initially, I thought it was because of the discussion we were having, so I changed the topic. We continued our tour. My wife kept behaving weird, and I kept wondering why. I had asked her if anything was wrong, but she kept on saying no. Minutes later, she told me she wanted to leave, that she wasn't feeling good, that her tummy hurt, and that she was tired from walking. I told the rest that we were going to wrap it up and head home for the day, but she insisted that she didn't want to spoil the fun for us. It took some convincing for me to decide to stay back and let her head back to the hotel alone, but I finally caved, called her an Uber, and kissed her goodbye. There was a few seconds of awkward chatter before I got the boys hyped up again by suggesting we go to an arcade place. We got to the arcade, and then the fun started. We played a few of those dancing games where you dance according to the arrows that come up on the screen. Then we played some laser tag. Not to brag, but I spent some time training to join the military, and although I ended up not joining the military, some of my residual skills remained. In this case, I was still a very good shot. We played capture the flag against another family there, a dad and his 4 sons, ages presumably between 22 and 10. I don't know. I brought the smoke. The little boy on the other side cried because of how bad we kept beating them. In the midst of it all, John got a text. I had seen from the reflection in his eyes that the text he got was an alluring photo. I gave him that noise, look, and shook his hand. We both laughed, and then he walked out of the field. In my own Christian mind, I thought the booty call was from a girl he met at one of the parties we went to. We went back to the game we were playing with the other dad and his 4 sons, this time 1 man short. The handicap gave them a fighting chance. He had won all 3 rounds before John, but the 5 games after, we won 3 and lost the other 2. Right about now, it had been 2 hours since John left and about 4 since Riel did. I felt bad for leaving her all alone when she obviously needed someone to take care of her. I recalled her intense fear of heights and the fact that she was only just starting to get used to being on high ground. I felt bad for leaving her all by herself even after neglecting her phobia for heights and making her climb the Eiffel Tower. I decided to leave my eldest in charge while I go take care of my woman. I gave them each 400 euros to spend, which was just above $500 then. I got to the hotel, swiped my keycard across the door, and walked in. I saw the clothes my wife had worn earlier scattered on the floor. I had thought to myself, maybe she had diarrhea and took it off before she shat herself. I approached the room we shared, but something else caught my eyes. I saw 1 foot of John's pair of shoes close to the door, then just ahead of it was my wife's panties. My heart began racing. I ran the rest of the way in and pushed the door open. What the actual F? My keycard fell from my hand and I followed suit. I dropped to my knees. It was the sound I made when hitting the ground that drew their attention. The two were so carried away, they didn't even hear me walk in. I wanted to do something, shout, hit something. I needed to do something, but I couldn't. I shouted the loudest damn I had ever heard, and then I went numb. I couldn't hear anything, I couldn't feel my surroundings, and everything in front of me was a blur. I saw the two of them run towards me, but I didn't hear a word of what they said. I saw them touch me, but I felt no hands on me. It took a good minute for me to regain consciousness. I was still knelt where I was. My wife was saying words, and now they were audible. She was pleading for my forgiveness, saying how sorry she was, saying how it was only a one-time thing, that she made a mistake, and how she'd spend the rest of her life trying to make it up to me. All those words went in one ear and out the other. As I knelt there, the one thing that came to my head was the look of pity on the cleaner's face that day. The look I had thought wasn't what it actually was. I know now why he pitied me. This woman was ducking my best friend. I got up and left. I didn't know where to. I just walked. I think I might have lost consciousness again cause the next thing I remembered was it being nighttime and me still walking. I asked the nearest person how far I was from the hotel I stayed at. I was told it was almost 2 kilometers away. Did I just walk 1.2 miles? The next 3 months went in similar fashion. I'd be doing something and next thing, I've lost time, sometimes a few minutes, sometimes hours. I was forced into early retirement due to this. I almost burnt down my house, and I had to stop driving due to the possibility that I might lose it when behind the wheels. It took a while before I became normal again. I just got back behind the wheel a few weeks ago. As for the woman who did this to me, we're separated. Not divorced yet. She still tries to get us back together even though I told her there can never be an us anymore. We had something good before, but she decided to stick my best friend's stick inside what we had. As for my best friend, I know some of you are thinking right now, why didn't he say ex-best friend? Well, even I don't know the answer to that question. I have told him if he ever got caught in his illegal deals that I'd testify against him. He has made his peace with that. We don't talk anymore, although he keeps sending me wads of money in hope that it would help fix things. I keep the money, it's the salary they made me not get. I'd worked 20 years with that company and I still had another good 10 years in me if not for that incident. I'm seeing a therapist, obviously, because that was the only reason I'm able to write this without going crazy again. I miss my old life, and I wish I could have it again, just without Riel. My eldest is getting married next year to a young lady who I think is good for him. I hope she treats him better than his mom did me. I think my life will be better. There have been signs. Lord, whatever lessons this was supposed to teach me, I'd have preferred to learn them by handwritten notes. That will be all. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. See you next time.